The stars looked cold and distant through the bridge windows of the Dawnbreaker. Commander Jake Martinez sat in his captain's chair reading the daily reports. His crew of 50 humans had been traveling through space for 3 months now, looking for new worlds and new life forms. It was quiet work, mostly boring, but Jake liked it that way. "Commander, we're getting something strange," called out Lieutenant Amy Collins from her station. She was the ship's communications officer, a young woman with bright red hair and quick fingers on the control panels. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" Amy pointed to her screen. "It's a signal, sir. Very weak, but it has patterns, math patterns. Someone is trying to talk to us." Jake felt his heart beat faster. In all his years exploring space, he had never found intelligent life. Humans had been alone in the galaxy for so long that many people thought they always would be. "Where is it coming from?" Jake asked. "A star system about 2 days away." "The signal is very old, sir. Maybe been traveling for years." Jake looked at the screen showing the signal patterns. They were beautiful in a way, like music made of numbers. "Set course for that system. Maximum speed." The Dawnbreaker turned toward the unknown system. Jake called his senior officers to the meeting room. Dr. Lisa Morgan came first. She was the ship's doctor and scientist who studied life forms. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes behind thick glasses. Engineer Alex Thompson arrived next. He was tall and strong with hands that could fix anything. He had built most of the special equipment on the ship himself. "We might have found intelligent aliens," Jake told them. "I want everyone ready for anything." 2 days later, they arrived at the system. What they saw made them all stop and stare. A planet hung in space like a blue and green jewel. But something was wrong. The air around the planet was thin and getting thinner. "The planet is dying," Lisa said, looking at her instruments. "The magnetic field is failing. The atmosphere is bleeding into space." They flew closer and saw cities. The buildings were strange and beautiful, made from what looked like grown crystal and metal mixed together. But many of the cities were empty. "No lights, no movement. I'm detecting life signs," Alex reported. "But not many. Maybe 50,000 spread across the whole planet." Jake made the hardest decision of his career. "Take us down. We need to make contact." They landed the ship in a clearing near one of the smaller cities. Jake, Lisa, and Alex put on their protective suits and stepped onto alien soil for the first time in human history. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, making each step feel like a small jump. The air smelled sweet like flowers even through their suit filters. Strange trees with silver leaves grew everywhere, and small flying creatures that looked like tiny dragons flitted between the branches. They walked toward the city. The buildings were even more beautiful up close, seeming to grow from the ground like plants but strong as metal. As they got closer, they saw movement. A figure stepped out from behind a building. It walked on 4 legs like a deer but had 2 arms with hands. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with fur that changed colors like water. Most amazing of all, it had crystal antlers on its head that glowed with soft blue light. Lisa stepped forward slowly, holding up her hands to show she was peaceful. The alien did the same with its 2 arms. Its antlers began to glow brighter and the colors shifted from blue to green to gold. "I think it's trying to communicate," Lisa whispered into her radio. "The antlers are changing colors and patterns." More aliens appeared. Jake counted about 20 of them. They all had the same basic shape but different colors and sizes. All had the glowing antlers, but the patterns were different for each one. One of the aliens, older looking with antlers that glowed soft white, stepped forward. It made sounds that were like singing mixed with clicks and whistles. Lisa quickly pulled out her translation computer and pointed it at the alien. After a few minutes, the computer began to make sense of the language. A mechanical voice spoke. "Welcome, sky travelers. We are the Villani. This one is called Zarathek, speaker for the people." Jake stepped forward. "I am Jake Martinez, commander of the human ship Dawnbreaker. We received your signal." Zarathek's antlers flashed bright gold and the translation computer said, "You came. We sent the math songs into the void many cycles ago, hoping someone would hear. Our world dies and we die with it. Over the next few hours, the humans learned the sad story of the Villani. They were peaceful people who had lived on this world for thousands of years. They had built a beautiful civilization based on growing their technology instead of building it with metal and circuits. But they had never learned to travel between stars, and now their planet was dying. How long do you have? Lisa asked. Perhaps 6 of your months, Zarathek replied. When the air becomes too thin, we will join our ancestors. Jake felt sick. Here was an entire intelligent species about to die, and they had found them too late to save everyone. The Dawnbreaker could maybe carry a few hundred people, but there were 50,000 Villani. As they talked with the Villani leaders, Alex wandered away from the group. He was always curious about how things worked, and the Villani buildings fascinated him. He followed a small path that led away from the main city. That's when he heard it, a small sound like crying. He followed the sound to a ruined building that looked like it had been abandoned for years. Inside, in a corner, he found her. She was small, probably a child, though Alex couldn't be sure. She had the same basic shape as the other Villani, but was much smaller. Her fur was a pretty silver color, but she was very thin. Most strange of all, her antlers didn't glow steady like the others. They flashed and sparked with random colors like broken lights. The little Villani saw Alex and tried to run, but she was too weak. Alex slowly took off his helmet, hoping to look less scary. He smiled and held out his hand. "Hey there, little one. I'm not going to hurt you." The child looked at him with large, dark eyes. Her antlers kept flashing those strange, random patterns. Alex pulled out a food bar from his suit and offered it to her. She sniffed it carefully, then took a small bite. Her eyes went wide, and she ate the rest quickly. Alex called Jake on his radio. "Commander, you need to come see this. I found something important." When Jake, Lisa, and Zarathek arrived, they found Alex sitting on the ground with the small Villani child eating another food bar. Zarathek's antlers went dark when she saw the child. "That one is broken," Zarathek said sadly. "Her light speech is wrong. Her family left her here to die with honor." Lisa knelt down next to the child. "She's just a baby. How could anyone abandon her?" "It is our way," Zarathek explained. "When the light speech is broken, it brings bad fortune to the family and the tribe. Better she dies alone than cursed all." Jake looked at the little alien child, then at his crew, then back at the child. She was looking up at him with those big, trusting eyes, holding Alex's hand. "Not anymore," Jake said firmly. "She's coming with us." Jake stood in his private office aboard the Dawnbreaker, staring at the communication screen. On the other side, President Helen Brooks of the Human Colonial Council looked tired and frustrated. "Commander Martinez, I understand your feelings, but we cannot authorize a full evacuation," President Brooks said. "We're talking about 50,000 aliens. Do you know how much that would cost? How many ships we would need?" Jake had been arguing with Earth's leaders for 2 weeks. The little Villani child, who they had named Kipola after she tried to say "keep going" in broken English, was living on the ship now. Dr. Lisa had given her a full medical check and found her to be healthy, just different from other Villani. "Madam President, these are intelligent beings. They have families, children, art, music. We can't just let them die. Commander, we have our own colonies to think about. Our own people need those ships and supplies." "I'm sorry, but the answer is no." The screen went dark. Jake put his head in his hands. He had sent all the reports, all the pictures, all the data about the Villani. But the people back on Earth saw only numbers and costs. A soft knock came at his door. "Come in." Dr. Lisa entered with Kipola holding her hand. The young Villani had grown stronger over the past 2 weeks. Her fur was now bright and healthy, and while her antlers still flashed in strange patterns, Lisa had discovered something amazing about them. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa said, leading Kipola to the small couch in the office. Kipola sat down and looked at Jake with her big dark eyes. Her antlers began to glow, but instead of the random flashing, they showed clear patterns. Pictures formed in the light. A human face, then a Villani face, then both together with smaller figures around them. "She's telling the story of humans and Villani becoming friends," Lisa explained. "Her antlers aren't broken, Jake, they're just different. She can make pictures with light that other Villani can't do." Kipola started making sounds. Her English was getting better every day. Jake friend said, "Kipola help?" Jake smiled despite his worry. This little alien child had become like family to the whole crew. She helped in the gardens, played games with the younger crew members, and had even started teaching some of them simple Villani songs. "I don't know how to help your people, Kipola. The leaders on Earth say it costs too much." Kipola's antlers showed new pictures, many ships carrying many Villani to new worlds. Then the pictures changed to show humans and Villani working together, building things, growing food, making beautiful art. "She's showing us what could happen if we saved them," Lisa said. "Jake, I think she understands more than we give her credit for." That evening, Jake was walking through the ship when he heard crying. He followed the sound to the small recreation room where crew members went to relax. Inside, he found Lieutenant Amy Collins sitting alone looking at pictures on her personal tablet. "Amy? What's wrong?" She looked up with tears in her eyes. "It's my little sister, sir. She's sick back on Earth. The doctors say she needs special treatment, but it's very expensive. My family can't afford it." Jake sat down next to her. He knew Amy sent most of her pay back to her family. "I'm sorry, Amy. Is there anything I can do?" Before Amy could answer, Kipola appeared in the doorway. She must have heard the crying. Without saying a word, she walked over to Amy and climbed up on the couch next to her. Kipola's antlers began to glow softly. She made gentle humming sounds, a Volani lullaby that Lisa had taught her. Slowly, she reached out with one small hand and touched Amy's face, wiping away a tear. "Friend sad," Kipola said in her careful English. "Kipola sing happy song for friend." Amy started crying harder, but now she was smiling too. She hugged the little alien child, and Kipola hugged her back, still humming the gentle song. Jake watched this and felt something change in his heart. Here was this child rejected by her own people, showing kindness to a human who was sad. Kipola didn't ask for anything. She just wanted to help, because someone was hurting. The next day, something went wrong with the ship's life support system. A power surge had damaged the air recycling units, and they were located in a part of the ship that was very hard to reach. The spaces were too small for adult humans to crawl through with the repair equipment. Alex was frustrated. "I can get close, but I can't reach the main unit. The space is just too tight." Jake was studying the ship's blueprints when Kipola walked up to them. She had been watching the repair work with interest. "Kipola help fix?" she asked. Alex looked at her small size and had an idea. "Jake, she might be able to fit through those spaces. If I attached a small camera and some simple tools?" "Absolutely not," Jake said immediately. "It's too dangerous." But Kipola had already crawled over to look at the opening. She turned back to them, her antlers flashing with excitement. Kipola not afraid. "Want to help friends?" After much discussion and safety preparations, they decided to try. Alex attached a small camera to Kipola's head and gave her simple tools. He guided her through radio as she crawled through the narrow spaces that adults couldn't reach. For 3 hours, the little Volani worked in the tight, dark spaces, following Alex's instructions. She never complained, never got scared. When she finally emerged, covered in dust but smiling, the life support system was working perfectly. The whole crew cheered. Amy picked up Kipola and spun her around. "You saved us all, little hero." Someone had recorded the whole repair job. Within days, the video was being shown on Earth. People saw this small alien child rejected by her own kind, risking her life to save humans who had helped her. The video spread across the human colonies. Children started drawing pictures of Kipola. Schools began learning about the Volani. People who had never cared about space exploration suddenly wanted to know more about the aliens who needed help. Jake started getting new messages from Earth, not from government officials, but from regular people. A group of school children in New York had raised money to help the Volani. Veterans who remembered being helped by strangers in dangerous places sent donations. Families who had lost everything and been helped by neighbors understood what the Volani were facing. The most important message came from Captain Maria Santos, head of the colonial fleet. She was a tough woman who had fought in 3 wars and was known for making hard decisions. "Commander Martinez, I've been watching the reports about your little alien friend. My granddaughter asked me why we can't help people who need help. I didn't have a good answer for her." Jake waited, hoping. "I'm going to recommend to the president that we authorize a full evacuation mission. That little girl of yours has done something our diplomats couldn't do. She's reminded us what we're supposed to be." 3 days later, Jake got the call he had been waiting for. President Brooks appeared on his screen again, but this time she was smiling. "Commander, I'm authorizing Operation Homeward. Every available ship, unlimited resources. We're bringing the Volani home." Jake felt tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Madam President." "Don't thank me, Commander. Thank that little girl. She's shown us that doing the right thing isn't about cost. It's about who we choose to be." That evening, Jake found Kipola in the ship's garden helping Lisa take care of the plants. Her antlers were glowing with soft, happy colors. "Kipola, good news. We're going to save your people. All of them." The little Volani looked up at him and her antlers burst with the brightest, most beautiful patterns anyone had ever seen. She ran to Jake and hugged his leg. "Jake, friend, best friend. Humans have big hearts like 3 sun morning. Jake picked her up and held her close. No, little one. You taught us how to have big hearts. Admiral Ben Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the massive ship called Earth's Hope, looking out at the biggest fleet in human history. 200 ships floated in space around the dying Villani world. There were huge colony ships that could carry thousands of people, medical ships full of doctors and supplies, and cargo ships loaded with everything needed to move an entire civilization. Jake Martinez was now Captain Martinez, promoted for his role in discovering the Villani. He stood next to the Admiral, watching smaller ships fly back and forth between the fleet and the planet below. Status report, Captain, Admiral Rodriguez said. We've evacuated 30,000 Villani so far, sir. They're being settled on the colony ships. Dr. Pete Harrison says the biopreservation units are working perfectly. We're saving their sacred groves and cultural artifacts. The Admiral nodded. Pete Harrison was the best terraforming expert in the human fleet. He had worked with Villani scientists to create special containers that could keep their living buildings and sacred plants alive during the long trip to their new homes. On the planet below, the evacuation was like nothing anyone had ever seen. Humans and Villani worked together, carefully moving families and their belongings onto transport ships. The Villani had been scared at first when they saw so many human ships arriving. Some thought it was an invasion, but Kipola had helped change that. She was now 8 years old in human years, though she was still young by Villani standards. She had learned to speak both English and Villani perfectly, and her strange antler patterns had become her greatest gift. She could show pictures in light that helped translate ideas that words couldn't explain. Dr. Lisa Morgan worked with Villani healers in the medical ships. She had discovered that Villani medicine was based on growing helpful plants and using light therapy. Combined with human medical technology, they could help both species better than ever before. Dr. Morgan to Admiral Rodriguez, came Lisa's voice over the radio. Go ahead, Doctor. Sir, we have a problem. Some of the older Villani are refusing to leave. They say this world is sacred and they should die with it. The Admiral looked troubled. They couldn't force people to leave their home, but he hated the idea of anyone dying when they could be saved. I'll handle this, came a small voice. Everyone turned to see Kipola walking onto the bridge. She wore a small human uniform that had been made just for her, and her antlers glowed with confident, steady patterns. Kipola spoke to elders. They listened to light pictures. An hour later, Kipola stood in the main gathering place of the largest Villani city. Around her sat 20 of the oldest and most respected Villani elders. Their antlers were dim with age and sadness. Elder Zarathek, who had first met the humans, spoke for the group. Young one, we know you mean well, but we are old. This world is all we have ever known. How can we leave the bones of our ancestors? Kipola's antlers began to glow. The light pictures she made were more complex and beautiful than any the elders had ever seen. She showed them images of young Villani growing up strong on new worlds, of Villani and human children playing together, of beautiful cities that combined the best of both species' building styles. Then her antlers showed something that made all the elders gasp. She showed them their ancestors, not as bones in the ground, but as memories and stories living on in the hearts of their children and grandchildren on new worlds. Ancestors not in ground, Kipola said in Villani. Ancestors in our hearts, in our songs, in love we give to young ones. We carry ancestors to stars. Old Zarathek's antlers began to glow brighter. The broken child speaks truth. Our people are our world, not the dirt beneath our feet. One by one, the elders agreed to join the evacuation. But their troubles were not over. As the evacuation continued, space monitors detected a dangerous solar flare heading toward the system. The flare would hit in just 2 days, and it would make the planet's atmosphere loss much worse. They had to speed up the evacuation. Commander Rachel Davis, a pilot known for taking on impossible missions, volunteered to lead a dangerous job. The planet had old orbital satellites that helped protect it from solar radiation, but they were failing. If someone could repair them, it might buy more time for the evacuation. It's too dangerous, Admiral Rodriguez said. The radiation levels up there could kill you. Sir, we have 15,000 Villani still on the surface. Without those satellites, the solar flare will strip away more atmosphere. We have to try. Rachel took a team of 6 engineers in small, fast ships up to the failing satellites. The work was dangerous and difficult. They had to repair complex systems while wearing heavy protective suits and racing against time. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Vallani scientists worked with human engineers to predict the best safe times for ships to take off. The Vallani knew their world's electromagnetic patterns better than anyone, and their knowledge helped save hundreds of lives. Kipola spent her time going from ship to ship, helping scared Vallani families feel better about leaving their home. She made light pictures showing them what their new worlds would look like, and she sang traditional Vallani songs to comfort the children. In one of the transport ships, she met a young Vallani boy who was crying because he had lost his favorite toy in the rush to evacuate. Kipola sat with him and used her antlers to create light pictures of the toy, making it seem to dance and play in the air. Soon the boy was laughing and clapping. His mother watched this and spoke to the human ship captain. "The human saved the broken child, and now she saves us all. Your species has great wisdom." On the second day, disaster struck. The solar flare arrived earlier than expected, and it was stronger than predicted. 3 transport ships still on the planet's surface were in danger. Their engines were damaged by the electromagnetic pulse, and they couldn't take off. Captain Jake Martinez made a quick decision. He took the Dawnbreaker down to the planet, flying through dangerous radiation to reach the stranded ships. Using cables and his ship's powerful engines, he managed to tow 2 of the ships to safety, but the third ship was too damaged. It held 300 Vallani, including many families with small children. "We need to abandon ship and use the emergency shelters," the ship's captain radioed. "Maybe the radiation will pass and another ship can come for us later." "No," came Kipola's voice on the radio. She was on Jake's ship, but she had an idea. "Kipola, no hidden places. Underground tunnels where ancestors lived, safe from skyfire." The young Vallani guided the evacuation to ancient underground tunnels that had been built thousands of years ago. The tunnels were too small for most adult humans, but Kipola and a few smaller human engineers could fit. They led repair teams through the tunnels to reach the damaged ship from underneath. Working in the dark, narrow tunnels, Kipola helped guide power cables and repair equipment to fix the ship's engines. It took 6 hours of dangerous work, but finally the ship's engines came back online. As the last transport lifted off from the dying world, Elder Zarathek did something that surprised everyone. In a ceremony broadcast to all the ships, she formally adopted Kipola as her chosen heir and the future speaker for the Vallani people. "This child was cast out as broken," Zarathek announced. "But she was not broken. She was different, and that difference saved us all. She will speak for our people in the new worlds." Kipola, now officially a Vallani leader despite her young age, stood next to Jake as they watched their old world grow smaller in the distance. Her antlers created one final light picture, humans and Vallani together, flying toward new stars and new hope. "Jake, friend," she said in her careful English, "thank you for believing little broken girl could be worth saving." Jake put his hand on her small shoulder. "Kipola, you were never broken. You were exactly what the universe needed you to be." Admiral Rodriguez watched the last ships leave the system. In 2 days, they had evacuated 50,000 aliens from a dying world. It was the largest rescue mission in human history, and it had worked because one small child had shown both species how to trust each other. "Set course for New Haven Colony," he ordered. "Let's take the Vallani home." The great fleet turned away from the dying star and headed for the new worlds where Vallani and humans would build their future together. 5 years had passed since the Great Rescue. Kipola, now 13 years old, stood on the observation deck of the Earth Colonial Academy space station. She wore the blue uniform of a student, specially made to fit her Vallani body shape. Her antlers had grown taller and more elegant, and she had learned to control her light patterns with perfect precision. Through the large windows, she could see 3 different worlds where the Vallani had made their new homes. New Haven was a beautiful green planet where most Vallani lived in cities that mixed human technology with Vallani growing buildings. Europa Station was a research facility where Vallani and human scientists worked together on amazing projects. But what made Kipola happiest was seeing the third group of dots. Those were human colonies where Vallani families had chosen to live side by side with human families. "Deep in thought again?" asked a familiar voice. Kipola turned to see Dr. Lisa Morgan walking up to her. Lisa was older now, with more gray in her hair, but her kind eyes were the same. She had become the director of interspecies relations, helping humans and Vallani work together. "I was thinking about how much has changed," Kipola replied in perfect English. She could now speak 4 human languages plus her native Vallani. Sometimes it feels like a dream. It's no dream. Look at what you've accomplished. Kipola had indeed accomplished amazing things for someone so young. Her research on bio-neural interfaces had helped create new medical devices that could help both humans and Villani. Her antler patterns could now interface directly with human computers, allowing her to solve complex problems by thinking in pictures and light. But more importantly, she had become a bridge between the species. Young Villani looked up to her as proof that being different was not a weakness. Human children learned about acceptance and kindness from her story. She traveled between the worlds, teaching and helping wherever she was needed. "Lisa, teacher," Kipola said. "I got a message from Captain Jake. He wants me to come to Earth for some important meeting. Do you know what it's about?" Lisa's expression became serious. "Yes, I do, and I'm afraid it's not good news." They walked to Lisa's office, where a holographic display showed a map of the galaxy. In one section, colored red, a large group of star systems pulsed with warning lights. "This is the hegemony," Lisa explained. "It's a military alliance of 4 different alien species. They've been conquering other worlds for the past 50 years. Kipola studied the map with her quick intelligence. "They're moving toward human space." "Yes, and they've been watching how humans help the Villani. They think we're weak because we show mercy to others." The display changed to show intercepted messages from the hegemony. Their leader, War Commander Vexthul of the Skarn species, looked like a giant lizard covered in metal armor. His words were harsh and threatening. "The humans waste resources on inferior species," his translated message said. "They will make easy slaves once we conquer them." "Their softness is their weakness," Lisa continued the briefing. "Ambassador Greg Foster has been trying to negotiate with them at the Galactic Council, but they're not interested in peace. They've given us 30 days to surrender 12 of our outer colonies, or they'll attack with everything they have." Kipola's antlers flickered with worried patterns. "How many ships do they have?" "Intelligence reports suggest over 3,000 warships. We have maybe 600, and many of those are colony ships converted for defense." The young Villani was quiet for a long moment, her antlers shifting through different light patterns as she thought. Lisa had learned to read some of these patterns over the years. Right now, Kipola was thinking very hard about something. "Lisa, teacher, have humans helped other species besides the Villani?" "Well, yes. Over the years, human traders and explorers have helped lots of different alien species. Small things, mostly. Sharing medical supplies, helping with technical problems, providing aid during natural disasters." "Why do you ask?" Kipola's antlers suddenly blazed with excited patterns. "I need to use the long-range communications array. I need to send messages to every species humans have ever helped." "Kipola, what are you thinking?" "The hegemony thinks human kindness is weakness. But what if kindness is actually the strongest thing in the galaxy?" Over the next week, Kipola worked day and night sending carefully crafted messages across the galaxy. She used every contact the Villani had made, every trade route humans had traveled, every diplomatic connection that existed. Her messages were simple. "The humans are in danger. They saved us when we were dying. Now we must choose. Do we stand together or let the galaxy's kindest species fall to those who believe only in strength?" Meanwhile, on Earth, the human leadership was preparing for what looked like an impossible war. General Nancy Webb, head of the Colonial Defense Force, stood in the war room looking at tactical displays. "We can maybe hold them off for a few weeks," she told President Brooks. "But 3,000 ships against 600? The math doesn't work." Captain Jake Martinez, now Admiral Martinez, had been called back from exploration duty. He stood with his old crew. Amy Collins was now a commander. Alex Thompson had become chief of fleet engineering, and Lisa continued her work with the Villani. "There has to be another way," Jake said. "We didn't save 50,000 Villani just to lose everything to some alien bullies." "Jake," Amy said quietly, "we did the right thing saving the Villani. Even if it costs us everything, it was still the right thing to do." The hegemony fleet was detected at the edge of human space, with 5 days left before their deadline. War Commander Vexthul sent one final message to Earth. "Humans, your time is ending. We offer you one last chance. Surrender now and become workers for the hegemony, or be destroyed completely. You have until tomorrow to decide." That night, President Brooks called an emergency meeting of all human leaders. The vote was unanimous. They would never surrender. If they had to fight an impossible war to protect their people and their values, then they would fight. "We'll make our stand at the Centauri system," Admiral Jake decided. Pull back all our ships there. At least we'll go down fighting together. As the human fleet gathered at Centauri, preparing for what might be their last battle, something unexpected appeared on their sensors. "Admiral," Commander Amy called out, "we're detecting ships approaching from multiple vectors. A lot of ships. Is it the hegemony? Are they early?" Amy studied her readings carefully. "No, sir. These ships, they're not human, but they're not hegemony either." On the main screen, the first ships became visible. They were unlike anything in the human fleet. Organic-looking vessels that seemed to be grown rather than built. Jake recognized them immediately. "Those are Volani bioships," he whispered. Elder Zarathek's voice came over the radio. "Admiral Martinez, this is the Volani Defense Fleet. We have come to repay our debt." But the Volani were not alone. More ships appeared. Crystalline vessels that sparkled like jewels. Sleek metal ships that moved like swimming fish. Massive rock-like ships that looked like flying asteroids. "Admiral, I'm counting vessels from 47 different species," Amy reported. Her voice filled with amazement. A new voice came over the communications. Young but strong and confident. "Admiral Jake, this is Kipola speaking for the allied grateful species. We received your invitation to a party and we decided to come." Jake felt tears in his eyes. "Kipola, what have you done?" "What you taught me to do, Jake friend. When someone needs help, you help them." War Commander Vexthul of the Skarn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Claw watching his sensors with growing confusion. His 3,000 warships had been expecting to find a small, scared human fleet. Instead, his screen showed something that made no sense. "Report," he growled at his tactical officer. "Commander, we count over 2,000 ships defending the human system. They appear to be from 47 different species." Vexthul's lizard-like face twisted with anger. His metal armor clanked as he moved closer to the screen. "Impossible. We have intelligence on every species in this part of the galaxy. Most of them barely have space travel. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the defending fleet. Put it on screen." The display showed something that made Vexthul even more confused. A young alien with glowing antlers was speaking. Surrounded by humans and other species he recognized but had never seen working together. "War Commander Vexthul, I am Kipola, speaker for the allied grateful species. We know you think humans are weak because they show mercy. We who have received that mercy know you are wrong." Vexthul laughed, a harsh sound like metal scraping stone. "Child, you bring merchant ships and science vessels against the greatest military force in the galaxy. Stand aside and we will kill you quickly." Kipola's antlers flashed with patterns that somehow looked like they were smiling. "Commander, you see individual weak species. We see something you cannot understand. Friends who stand together." The communication ended. Vexthul ordered his fleet to attack. What happened next would be remembered as the Battle of Centauri, though it was less a battle and more a demonstration of what cooperation could accomplish. The hegemony ships charged forward in their traditional attack formation, a massive wall of firepower designed to overwhelm enemies through pure force. It had worked against every species they had ever fought, but they had never fought an alliance like this one. The Volani bioships moved first. Their living hulls could repair themselves instantly, and they had learned human tactical coordination. They formed a defensive screen that absorbed the first wave of attacks while barely taking damage. Behind them, the crystalline collective's ships created geometric patterns that redirected energy weapons back at their attackers. The crystal beings had once been saved by human engineers who helped them escape an asteroid collision. Now they used their unique abilities to protect their saviors, the deep swimmers, aquatic aliens whose ocean world had been cleansed by human environmental technology, brought ships that could phase in and out of normal space. They appeared behind hegemony ships, struck quickly, and vanished again. But the real surprise came from the coordination. Admiral Jake Martinez stood on his flagship with Kipola beside him, her antlers connected to the ship's communication systems. Through her bio-neural interface, she could coordinate the thoughts and tactics of 47 different species as if they were one mind. "Crystalline ships. Form defensive pattern 7 Alpha, Jake ordered. "Deep swimmers. Hit the left flank and withdraw," came Kipola's voice, her antlers translating the order into the aquatic species sonar language. "Volani bioships. Begin regeneration cycle 3. The hegemony had always fought individual species who were isolated and afraid. They had never faced an enemy that could think with dozens of different types of intelligence working together. Commander Amy Collins, now aboard a ship crewed by both humans and wandering clan nomads, watched her sensors with amazement. "Admiral, their formation is breaking up. They don't know how to fight a coordinated defense." The nomads on her ship had been saved from starvation when human colony ships shared food supplies during a long journey between stars. Their ships were fast and could survive in the dangerous spaces between systems where the hegemony ships couldn't follow. War Commander Vexthul watched his perfect attack fall apart. Every time his ship struck one group of defenders, 3 other groups hit them from different angles. Every time he tried to focus his firepower, the enemy fleet shifted like water flowing around his attacks. "Sir, we're losing ships," his tactical officer reported. "The enemy fleet is not taking significant damage, but we've lost over 300 vessels." Vexthul had never retreated from a battle in his entire military career, but he was facing something he had never encountered, an enemy that was stronger together than the sum of its parts. "All ships, withdraw to safe distance. We need to rethink our strategy." But the Allied fleet did not pursue. Instead, they formed a defensive sphere around the human colonies and waited. Kipola's voice came over the communication channels, speaking directly to the hegemony fleet. "War Commander, you can attack again if you want. We will defend our friends, or you can listen to a better offer." Vexthul was curious despite his anger. "What offer, child? Join us?" "Not as conquerors, but as equals. Humans have taught us that helping others makes everyone stronger. Your species could be part of something bigger than just taking things from others. The Skarn do not make friends with weak species." "Commander?" came a new voice. Elder Zarathek from the Villani flagship. 5 years ago, my people were dying on a dead world. Humans could have left us to die. Instead, they spent enormous resources to save us all. Not because we could give them something in return, but because it was the right thing to do." More voices joined in, each telling similar stories. "The humans helped us move our entire civilization when our sun went dark," said the representative. "Of the wandering clans, they shared medical knowledge that saved millions of our people from plague," added the deep swimmer speaker. "They taught us how to build better ships and asked for nothing in return," said the A. Crystalline collective 47 different species, each with a story of how humans had helped them when they needed it most. Vexthul listened to these stories with growing confusion. In his culture, you only helped others if they could help you back. The idea of helping someone just because they needed help made no sense to him. "This is weakness," he declared. "You waste resources on others instead of making yourselves strong." Kipola's antlers showed new patterns, not the happy, excited patterns from before, but something sadder and wiser. "Commander, look at your fleet and look at ours. You came here with 3,000 ships, all from species that fear you. We have 2,000 ships from species that came here because they wanted to help friends. Which one looks stronger to you?" For the first time in his life, War Commander Vexthul had no answer. The battle ended not with more fighting, but with communication. Over the next several days, representatives from the allied grateful species talked with the hegemony forces. Many of the species that had been forced to join the hegemony learned about this new alliance where membership was voluntary and everyone benefited. Slowly, ships began to leave the hegemony fleet. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. They were tired of conquering and ready to try building something instead. War Commander Vexthul found himself commanding a force that had shrunk to less than 1,000 ships, while the alliance had grown to over 4,000. In the end, even Vexthul's own people, the Skarn, voted to join the alliance. They were warriors, but they had grown tired of always fighting. The idea of using their strength to protect others instead of conquering them appealed to many young Skarn. Vexthul himself remained unconvinced, but he was no longer war commander. His people had chosen a new leader, one who wanted to try this strange human idea of cooperation. 3 months later, Kipola stood in the gardens of New Geneva Station, watching children from dozens of different species playing together. Human children played with Villani young ones, crystalline offspring that looked like moving jewels rolled. Games with Skarn hatchlings who were learning that their strength could be used to protect smaller friends instead of intimidating them. Admiral Jake Martinez walked up to her, now wearing the uniform of the first commander of the Allied Defense Force. "Kipola, I got the final reports. 49 species have officially joined the alliance. We're calling it the Grateful Federation. Kipola smiled, her antlers glowing with soft, happy patterns. Jake, friend, remember when you found me in those ruins? I was just a broken little alien that nobody wanted. Jake put his hand on her shoulder, just like he had done all those years ago on the Dawnbreaker. You were never broken, Kipola. You were exactly what the galaxy needed. The humans saved us not because we were useful, but because we needed saving, Kipola said. Watching a human child teach a young Skarn how to build with blocks instead of knocking them down. In learning to trust you, we learned to trust each other. And in the end, it was not Earth's weapons that saved humanity. It was your willingness to see worth in a forgotten child that saved us all. Jake nodded, watching the children play. In trying to save one small alien child, humans had accidentally created the greatest alliance in galactic history, not through conquest or fear, but through the simple idea that everyone deserves help when they need it. What's next for you, Kipola? You're the first interspecies cultural ambassador. You could go anywhere, do anything. Kipola's antlers showed pictures of new worlds, new species, new friends waiting to be made among the stars. Same thing we've always done, Jake, friend. When we find someone who needs help, we help them. And maybe they'll help someone else someday.